It was Godzilla who killed the radio star. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Matthew, and today we're back with kind of continuing our line of Playmates reviews remastered from Godzilla vs. Kong. Today we have the radio tower Godzilla, and of course, the actual main character of the set is going to be the radio tower itself. So this is going to be, again, a remaster review of an old figure we took a look at all those years ago, just in higher quality. Yes, this is a newer phone, so we're going to kind of take a new lens in the literal approach. But with that said, there's some things I should probably go over about this guy before we do get started. For one, this is going to be from the very first wave of Godzilla vs. Kong products. So we're talking Heat Ray Godzilla, Kong with Battle Axe, this guy, the Skullcrawler Thief, and the two giants, Giant Godzilla and Giant Kong, from the Godzilla vs. Kong movie. So the quality isn't necessarily up to par with, say, some of Playmates' newer works. Like I'm talking Kong with Beast Glove, Godzilla Evolved, even though it's a little bit on more same ballpark as this one. I would even go as far to say Scar King, which is a pretty damn good figure overall. Shimo, pretty good. Basically all the more recent works. So this is definitely going to be on the more outdated class. But with that said, it's still going to be kind of like a trip down memory lane when Godzilla merch was, in a way, kind of like coming back when everything was so scarce. Because the King of the Monsters movie did offer us some pretty good products, but for the most part, it was the big, like, most common thing you could buy was mainly kind of content to Jack specific, which was a very limited range. Because, like, what, you had a few minifigures, like 2 6-inch figures, and then a 12-inch and a big 24-inch, which was like a site exclusive, plus a mask, which like maybe 3 people bought, but like, so along came Playmates, and they produced a ton of variety of Godzillas over the years. But for their first wave, was this actually a great introduction to the line, or was this just proving that Playmates was just a big dud within the whole MonsterVerse range? Keep in mind, we're only talking MonsterVerse, not Toho Classic. Let's find out. So starting off with the accessories, yes, we're just going right to accessories, which is pretty much what we're going to be doing from here on out with these Playmates toys. Is going to be this radio tower, which has really no significance in the film, which at no point does Godzilla really attack a radio tower, or nor does he wield one in the film. So this was definitely Playmates' way of like giving Godzilla like an accessory. Like what do we do? Godzilla doesn't really hold stuff. Do we like give him maybe like a tree? No, we just give him a radio tower, which it's going to be a flexible piece of rubber, so it's very pliable. You can almost like tear these little bits out if you really want to. I'm not going to. But for the detail work, we actually do have a little bit. For the top, we have this little nub, which is going to be, of course, the little antenna at the top of the tower. Then we have this big cylinder, kind of coils down, and then we have all the actual radio tower bits, which is going to have these little, I forget the name of them. I know what they are. I know what they do. But we have some red lining here at the top and midway. And we have like some of the various beams and wires like kind of crumbled in, because again, Godzilla's supposed to be like grasping it. And he's doing like a pretty good job at like actually squishing it. So we have some like flat parts, which I would assume is where it's like primarily broken. But yeah, it's supposed to be like all folded up and everything. Bottom here, it's supposed to just look like this on 4 legs, even though one of the legs is kind of bent. I don't know if that's because of mine or if that's actually supposed to look like that. I'm going to say it's supposed to look like that, because I've had it this way since I got it. Anyway, so yeah, this one's actually cleanly painted too, which I kind of find surprising. But yeah, it's just basically one big long thing of gray rubber, and with 2 pieces of the red paint, and yeah, just kind of more diamond-esque details with some more like bumps and kind of crumpled up in bits. So to put it in, there's really no right or wrong way. I mean, there is a wrong way, but there's also not really a technically speaking right. I forget, like, hold on. So I would have normally have just done it like this, I have like a mixed approach with it, because sometimes it likes to stand like that. So you have Godzilla's fingers kind of grasping that circle, and then you have Godzilla's thumb kind of like grasping that side, and you do have Godzilla wielding the radio tower, which is how it's supposed to be, or at least in some way. As for grip, he does have a decent grip, but it does tend to fall out. But if you just want to display it, you can actually just sit it upright, because even though one of the legs is bent, so actually get that into view, you can actually have it like completely displayed and have Godzilla like, rah. There you go. Have buy 10 of these and just go rah, just all through that. The only problem is you'd have 10 Godzilla toys, which, hey, I mean, 10 Godzilla toys, that's not really a problem. Kind of a problem with they're all the same damn figure, huh? Anyway, so for the actual title accessory, I would say it's whatever. It's like a take it or leave it type thing. It's not super beneficial to the figure. It's not from the film, because maybe it's from an early cut of the movie, because apparently what happened was they had this big, longer version of Godzilla vs. Kong that had all these different scenes, and I'm guessing the radio tower may have been part of that. But then after King of the Monsters underperformed at the box office, because by that time Playmates was probably already under contract with Legendary, again, I'm guessing chronologically speaking, that they had to shorten down the movie and make it so general audiences could watch this movie that didn't watch King of the Monsters, because they kind of knew King of the Monsters was a dud, even though I really don't like saying that, because what an amazing movie that was. Anyway, and my guess is that this was part of that wave. Again, it's just a theory, a game theory, or film theory, huh? And for the other accessory is going to be, of course, the signature battle damage piece, which is going to be right across Godzilla's chest. And so you just take it and you peel it like a scab. So it's going to be this big lightning bolt looking piece across Godzilla's chest. Of course, you have the rib cage underneath. And of course, the rib cage within itself, which we have 4 ribs on that side, 5 ribs on that side too, because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. For Playmates' first attempt at the battle damage, this was actually pretty decent. I maybe would have liked some more paint on the ribs, but I feel like at that point it's a bit nitpicking. So, but mine does have a bit of Axis red, a little dribblage, and that's not something you can just cover with the battle damage piece. So there's that. So really putting that back on, as you can see, that's something nail polish remover could remove. So for the accessories, when you really get down and dirty with it, quite literally, battle damage is cool. I'd say, I don't really have any complaints about it. I'm actually going to say 8 out of 10. That's actually pretty cool. The radio tower, it's not really that serviceable. I mean, it's serviceable, but it's a piece of gray rubber that's packaged with the figure. You can destroy it, hold it. There's a bit of things you can do. I'm thinking 7 out of 10. So the accessories together, I'm going to say 7.5, because I feel like that's fair. Now that the accessories are out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at the actual figure. So, as far as the mold goes, it is the exact same mold as the Heat Ray Godzilla we took a look at a few months ago. And, yeah, basically as far as sculpt, paint, detail, nothing's really changed as far as the actual design of it goes. However, the main difference is going to be primarily the colorization, which, as you can see, the figure is outfitted in a much more grayish blue as opposed to the more charcoal black with a bluish highlight that the original Heat Ray Godzilla was made from. For the face, instead of blue eyes, we actually have orange eyes. And this is pretty cool because I like this more deeper color contrast that really just helps with the figure overall to become more of a neutralized Godzilla, even though it has illuminating dorsal plates. It at least looks like a more standard Godzilla because his eyes are more like the fiery red or orange type color within the film itself. There's even a scene where Godzilla's eyes even change color when he's roaring at Kong. You remember that little roar off Godzilla's eye? Yeah, it's actually canon. So the pupil itself is surprisingly painted, because you think like because of a figure this size and a Playmates brand like that, they would just leave blank. But no, you actually do get painted pupils, which when you look at it from the front, okay, looks a little goofy. Not the worst I've actually seen on a figure, but it does look like that. The top of the head has very smoothed out details. You primarily get the details once you get to the back, but for the most part, you can tell that this was Playmates' like very early designs of Godzilla, so it's obviously not going to be like the most up-to-date type thing. I mean, you can barely make out the nostrils, barely make out the other details that are on this guy. For the teeth, primarily just white strips, which do actually have some detail of teeth on there, which is pretty cool. For the top of the mouth, a little detail there, but primarily with that peg hole that's supposed to come with the beam with the heat ray Godzilla. So there is that, and of course the tongue in there, which there is a sculpted in tongue. You can kind of see the detail right there. That is pretty cool. Anyway, for the sides, we have a bit more rendered detail, not by much, but we do have some segmented neck detail, some more kind of like pointed square-ish neck detail. I don't know how to properly describe it, but it looks a lot more squared off than something like a NECA Godzilla or a MonsterVerse Godzilla. And of course we have like all these little line segments going down with the figure. And something of note is that you can see a mild wash. It is very mild, but you can kind of start to see it once we get to the sides. But you can just actually take a look at that detail, because there is some detail to be found. Let's talk about the sides of the figure. The actual sides, you can again see a bit of a wash here, and it looks pretty nice. It's a bit more of like a darkened wash this time, but there is something there. Primarily you can see it here because there's no wash, there's the wash. Anyway, so for the actual detail, again, it's a bit unrendered. It almost looks like PS2 graphics to, I would say, busting out like a later... Actually, no, that's a bad comparison. I was about to grab the 2004 Godzilla. Anyway, because that's like almost on the same level as this, just except made of a vinyl. But yeah, it does have a bit of the sculpted details with the scales. The front side has the signature chest pack, of course, with the lightning bolt, Harry Potter scar much. And we have the arms, which are going to be very much muscular, small but muscular. And we have all these like individual segmented details. Claw paint looks pretty sweet with the... I like the fact that even though I think it is the same colors they use on the Heat Ray Godzilla, it actually pops more here because it's a darker color on a lighter colored figure, which... awesome. For the legs, all the scales and detail work. I didn't remember the figure being like, obviously it's made of hard plastic, but I just made like a harder plastic. Anyway, so for the actual detail work, again, you can actually see the wash on full effect here. And we can actually bring out some of the more finer details. Like this has to be like one of the most well done parts about this figure, as far as like the sheer detail is concerned. Because even on the inside looks pretty sweet as well, with all the wash and effects we have going on here. Claw paint again looks really nice. I love this color combination with the lighter skin on the darker claws. That looks sweet. Bottom of the feet have a bit of copyright info, copyright legendary, WE, whatever. Trademark Toho, copyright limited, company limited. For the actual dorsal plates, again, this isn't going to be one of their later releases, so the detail work is there, but it's very, very soft. We have a lot of more like the bladed parts of the figure, a little pointy, like primarily towards here. Other parts here, it's actually a bit more blunt, but still would be cautious about this guy, even though they are pretty rubbery. We have like blue spray across all the dorsal plates, so that looks nice there. I'm trying to flip this around. Mine's got a few scuffs, probably just because of the previous seller, because I did get this guy used a lot. And we do have the blue, which continues down. My problem with this guy is, again, not a fault of the previous seller, but my tail does not come with any of that blue paint, which it's supposed to. Here is not painted at all. And yeah, we have like a bunch of segmenting though, which has nice underside. And of course the tail within itself has some pretty nice details. And then we have the pointed tip, which goes right up. So it's in a pre-post position, as we'll talk about in articulation. So also that's just kind of another thing, is that Playmates Godzillas are known for being pre-post. So we have the right leg, which goes back, the left leg, which goes front, and then the shoulders, which kind of like rest in a neutralized position. So it's meant to look like he's walking. So for the Playmates Godzilla Radio Tower, I would say, is he cheap looking? Yeah. I mean, of course, it's a $10 toy. This is one of Playmates' earlier figure, so they did improve over time. But that said, because of that, you also have to like factor in the fact that like these figures may have also been rushed, but also may have not been. I would honestly say like my biggest kind of like complaint with the figure is just primarily going to have to be that tail, because it's not as advertised. There's a blue spray here, is supposed to be on here, but I don't see that, do I? I mean, technically I could fix that by detaching the Energized Godzilla tail and putting on this one, but that's like a different color slightly. But as for the actual figure goes, it's okay. It's nothing too spectacular, but I do dig the actual like application. I like the orange eyes. I like the blue spray on the spines. I love the actual colorization on the body, and I love the color contrast between the claws and the body itself, along with the wash. So I would say 7 out of 10 personally for the actual sculpt and paint. Nothing spectacular, but nothing over like bad or anything. Next up is articulation. For the jaw, which actually has a hinge, which I didn't actually originally expect on a figure like this, because usually I thought they'd honestly just do a Bandai where they just keep everything locked in here, but no, you actually do get a hinge, which can open about this far up, close like that, and yeah, that's basically the extent of the articulation there. Now, for the head, you might say, oh, well, it's turning, right? Let's turn it. No. This figure will break if you do that. I have a really good example. Let me go get it. This is my first Godzilla with heat ray. So again, it's the same mold, same company, same line. And watch what happens when I go to turn it. See that? Now let me turn it back. Open it, turn back. That is the plastic starting to split. Let's try that again. I really want to drive home this point. See how it's opening? It's going to push that back into place. Okay, let's open it up again. Alright, I think you get it. That is the plastic splitting up. And the reason why that is because instead of pegging it in like a circular peg, Playmates had the genius idea of putting it in a square peg. Square. Why square? I have no clue. Maybe it's like a connection thing with the design. But in my personal opinion, because of the way that the head looks and the way that it's shaped, there should have been head movement here. Plus, they advertised it in the commercial. There's literally like this one scene where Godzilla even like turns his head like this. And like he's literally like roaring towards the camera or something. I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen the commercial. He's like all the way over here. I'm only doing this because this figure is already kind of used, so I really don't care. Like if this neck breaks, like I can actually just repair it. I already have another one anyway. So again, I need to kind of crap. It's tumbling down the whole figure. Kind of like need to drive home the point that this figure will break if you actually, twist it. And I might have had another scuff. I don't know. So yeah, shoulders can go about this far back and this far forward. Legs, well, this leg can go up and down like that. No rotation at the foot, because much like the head, it's actually a square peg. You can technically rotate it, but it's super tight and the plastic shears away at the joints, so no. This leg can go up and down, and a ball joint at the tail, which we can go left, right, up, and down. Just like that. So, articulation, fairly basic. It kind of lives up to the name of being a basic 6-inch figure. I'll say that the articulation in the head and feet should have been actual joints and not just pegs. Because think of how much people out there, like little kids who maybe want to get a new dinosaur toy and then they see this Godzilla. Ooh, what kind of dinosaur is that? Their parents buy it. And then they go to turn the head. They turn it. Oh, you're having a little bit of resistance? Okay, let me try harder. Think of how many kids have done that. I'm just saying. So I am going to kind of dock off some points for these three just because there should have been movement, especially when the later released 2014 Godzilla had joints in those specific areas. So why they can do it for 2014 but couldn't do it for the 2019 onward Godzilla, I have no clue. But that said, you might say, oh, well, that's a different design that was released in a different time. Yeah, between the 2014 and now, there was the New Empire line, and Godzilla Evolved still was not able to, I mean, I can't remember if he was able to turn his feet, but he was definitely not able to turn his head. If anything, it's less mobility than that. But as for the articulation we do get, it's fairly basic. Ball joint at the tail, swivels at the feet, swivels at the arms, and a hinge for the jaw. So you can get some, maybe some basic, decent poses. Let me, try to get them, in, kind of like a weird stance. There you go. He's taking a stroll through Tokyo. Anyway, because of he's already pre-posed, the articulation really doesn't give you that much, so I'm going to say 6 out of 10 for the articulation. Again, a little bit of a dud. For some size comparison and reference, here he is with pretty much his brethren from technically, so to speak, the same line, maybe not the same movie line, but same overall united MonsterVerse line, with the simultaneously released Godzilla with Heat Ray, and the Godzilla Kong the New Empire reissue of Godzilla with Heat Ray, which has a completely different beam effect and new added limbs, like new tail, new legs, and new plastic of their quality. Which, in technically, so to speak, terms, as far as the compatibility of the beams go, you can actually. Let's kind of put the beam in the mouth here. You can actually do that, as you can see there. Just keep in mind that I would not suggest taking out and in over the years, because as my Heat Ray Godzilla has done that, it is scuffed inside the mouth. And here he is with some more Godzilla vs. Kong, Godzilla Kong the New Empire figures, with the Kong fighter jet, technically, so to speak, I guess his counterpart, and the very, very crappy energized Godzilla from Godzilla Kong the New Empire, which originally I had thought that all they just did was take this guy and color him blue, and that was it. Actually, just a brief comparison out of the way, it's almost like it's a different shade of blue between the two. This one's a tad bit darker, but it's primarily the same kind of design overall. The blue translucent fins come from the Heat Ray Godzilla, so it's almost like an amalgamation between this guy and his Heat Ray cousin. And for the last size comparison, here he is with the Monster Arts 2021 Godzilla and the NECA 2019 Godzilla V1. And so overall, for the Playmates Radio Tower Godzilla, what do I think of this guy? He's honestly my personal favorite between this and the Heat Ray Godzilla. The Heat Ray Godzilla is not a bad figure, but I think just visually speaking, this guy is just way better. He has a much better color scheme overall, and I would say if he was given the accessory, mwah, beautiful. Which is probably why I love the Hollow Earth one so much, which is basically just this guy just painted green. That said, Do I recommend them? In 2025, I don't know. There's a lot better figures out there of better quality than the earlier 2021 released Godzilla Kong figures, primarily from the new Empire line and what we're going to be getting with Supernova. And I just feel like Playmates has definitely put out a lot better of figures. But that said, I still recommend this over the Energized Godzilla. If you want to go back in time and like really re-experience the pandemic era of what I almost would consider figure collecting, sure, get this guy. Because he's almost like he's right from that era. I almost feel a weird sense of nostalgia for that. Because like going into Walmart or something and actually getting this guy in hand, you know, some people around the world have actually experienced that. But that said, that's all from me. My personal final rating of this guy, I'm going to rate as a 7 out of 10. Not the best figure, definitely not the worst, but good for what it is. Anyways, that's all I have for this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out, everyone.